So here we are in the third level of Extraction Point. This is the obviously second unfinished level I'm playing, and we're in the mines. So just to recap, in the first level we were in a Chinook helicopter that crashed. Our whole team was wiped out, and we fought our way single-handedly towards an extraction that was going to take place, but we were thwarted by the Shah, who is the leader of a terrorist organisation, and he incapacitated us, threw us in the river, left us for dead, and we woke up several hours later at the bottom of a waterfall and have fought our way through a local town, and we are now trying to progress through a mountain to get to the town of El Gem, which is where our next extraction point is. And you may have missed on the comms messages from the last level, but our commanding officer, Major Thompson, went out looking for us and also got shot down and is also stranded, and he said that he's going to backtrack and try and meet us. So here we are in the mines. There's no combat in this level. It's a kind of a Half-Life 2 inspired sort of puzzle solving level, and yeah, I quite enjoy putting this one together. So we have a gate here we can't open because it requires a generator to be switched on. These are all models from the store, although the rails are ones I made myself. We'll get into that in a second. And the cave segments are also custom. So we need to search for 3 cans of fuel to get the generator started again. And if we go over to this generator and press E, nothing happens. It just gives a kind of a spluttering noise. So we need 3 more cans of fuel. Unfortunately, we have 3 kind of tunnels that lead off to different challenges. Each one tests a slightly different aspect of our skills. So we'll follow our first tunnel around the corner. And we're encountering a locked gate here, but I can see through the fence there is a fuel can that we could pick up. There's some gate controls here to open the gate. Ah, I see. It's blocked our progress. So we have a little kind of logic puzzle here where we have to try and figure out what combination we need to kind of open the gates in to actually get to that can of fuel. So, okay. As I say, these segments are all custom. I did buy Lafette's excellent mine pack, but I just wanted something a little different, a slightly different look for my mines. So I used the gates and some of the entities from his pack, but kind of produced the segments myself. So I'm particularly happy with the way the lighting turned out in this level. It's quite atmospheric, and even just the colour palette sort of reminds me of some of those subterranean levels from Half-Life 2. So here's our first fuel can, and that's a custom sound effect. But now our progress is blocked and we can't get out. So what does that do? Okay, well that shuts our progress. That's probably not what I need to do. Okay. So first challenge passed. I remember I struggled for ages to get everything to line up in this level. It was an absolute nightmare building these rails and all the segments and trying to get them to line up, so that there will be sections where the rails just stop because I just couldn't, I wasn't smart enough basically to measure everything out and make everything fit. So I definitely need 2 more cans of fuel, so I'm going to go off and find the second can now. I like the ambience in this level as well, the sort of wind blowing. So this is a very different pace of level to what we had before with all the shooting. Okay, and this section of the mine is flooded. Here's our fuel can, but it is behind a locked gate. So perhaps we can find a key in this little office. Nope. So it looks like we're going to have to delve underwater. And this really is the first time we've asked the player to swim. Swimming was never a particularly good mechanic in GameGuru. Quite easy to drown, and movement's not great. But if you're quick enough... we'll unlock the gate and grab our second fuel can. As I say, this version of the level was built very recently. It was built, I should say, it was saved as standalone. The level was built back in 2018, but this is an export from literally today. It was built with the November fixes build of GameGuru, and there are still some problems with it. You can see that the emissive maps aren't working on these lights, and yeah, even darkness is a bit of a problem. It's really difficult to get complete pitch darkness with the November fixes build, I find. Something to do perhaps with the new artificial sun that they've added, because there's now a sort of a simulated sky. And here we enter one of my favourite spaces I've ever developed in GameGuru. It looks pretty rubbish compared to the original version back from 2018, pre-PBR, and in fact I will put some screenshots up on screen now just so you can see what it used to look like. This current build is a bit of a shadow of its former self, but yeah, I was really going for a specific aesthetic with it, and I think I did pretty well. But yeah, we need to find our way to a fuel can, and I don't think it's obvious from this build, but can I jump back up there? I should be able to. There is actually a fuel can up the top there, on top of a little barrel, so we have to find a way to get up there. And so it's a little bit of a platforming puzzle to jump between the various walkways and rocks to try and find our way across. So go up this ladder onto this ledge, and yeah, so really enjoyed putting this one together. As much as I hate doing jumping puzzles in FPSC and GameGuru games, out of the box there's limited scope to be able to do different types of challenges, and I figured this was something a little bit different. The footfall sound effects aren't working quite right because everything sounds like grass, and it should sound like gravel or rock or whatever, or wood in this case. So let's see if we can time this jump well enough to kind of get up onto this this ledge, jumping across these pipes. Okay, great, good stuff. And there's our third can. So yeah, enjoyed putting together all this kind of clutter, mining clutter, and it's time to head back. This was made before I knew anything about optimizing levels, so I imagine all of these textures are kind of 4K PNGs or something, so taking up a lot of VRAM, which is perhaps one of the reasons why the level is quite slow. We could go back this way, but it's quite difficult, so we're going to go the easier route and go this way. And again, just a little bit of light platforming to get us back. The penalty for failure is not that great. You fall into 4 foot of water, and you can quite easily climb out onto that lowest ledge and start again. So it doesn't punish you too much. It's more just the annoyance of having to do it again. So now that we've got our 3 fuel cans, we can now turn the generator on and we can progress. And that's kind of the end of this section of the level. That's really as far as I got. But I'm going to keep playing, because I do want to show you something else. So there was going to be potentially other challenges I was going to do, other platforming challenges that you were going to have to overcome, other caverns in the mine. But instead I was going to take you outside here, just to show you how the level was put together. So you can actually see that although I've turned terrain off, you can actually see the reflection of it in the water. But yeah, so to save on performance, I hid the terrain. But the terrain was needed to, and I had to sculpt the terrain quite carefully to get the correct height for all the different entities. So I was cutting all sorts of troughs and making all sorts of furrows and things to kind of keep everything at the same height. And on the top of everything, just to keep everything in shadow, this is how I used to have to do it in the old version of GameGuru, is an enormous sort of building entity from one of the model packs that I've had to stretch out, and it's basically an enormous sunshade, although as you can see it's not working too well because sun is still being sort of shown on the outside of these segments. So yeah, getting interior environments in GameGuru is a bit of a pain. But there is something else I wanted to show you, and it's this over here. So although I've turned the terrain off, the collision for the terrain still works. So we're just going to go on a little walk. So after traversing these mines that I'd never finished building, you would have ended up finding a facility hidden deep in the mountain, and this is going to be the Shah's sort of secret base, and you would enter through an air vent. This is, I believe, a custom segment actually. The texture looks custom. I don't ever remember there being this in GameGuru itself, or FPSC for that matter. And if you look at the way that this level is put together, you'll notice that these are all FPS creator segments. And this is actually using a tool that was developed by a community member called Board of the Rings. He developed a tool that would allow you to port entire FPSC levels into GameGuru as static entities. So within FPSC, I used some of the stock segments. I think the plan was I was going to kind of swap these out with better ones later on, but for the purposes of this test, I just used some of the World War II bunker elements and put together a kind of a basic layout of what I thought the bunker should look like, a few doors, and I ported the whole thing over as a single solid mesh. And I think it comes over with, well, I'm not sure if it's polygonal collision or whether it's some sort of reduced, better performance version of that, but yeah, so it literally ported all of the segments and the static doors. It doesn't port all of the dynamic entities. I think there was an option to be able to port those as well. I think as we progress in, we'll see exactly what I did and didn't take over. But so yeah, imagine you've gone from a sort of a rocky cavern and you've found this air vent, and you're now crawling inside. And we're now going to go and spy a little bit on the Shah and his operations. So obviously there's not much to see because it's an unfinished level, but there's a large space here that probably would have been some sort of, I don't know, garage or staging area. And then as we progress on, we will get to see different parts of the operation. So there is another kind of washroom down there, and dead end. Had a lot of fun putting together these air vent segments, although I don't think the texture is particularly good looking back, but oh well, never mind. Nice little stairwell there. And really the idea with this is I'm kind of showing you all of the places that you're going to pass later on in the level, because as you progress on, you will have to escape this facility. And then here you actually see a couple of your teammates, a couple of your squad. So they were not all wiped out by the Chinook crash. The Shah actually took a couple of them prisoner, and there was going to be a whole sort of animated scene, a little bit like with the sort of cinematic at the end of the first level of Extraction Point, where the Shah comes in and starts interrogating these men about all the killings basically, and this rogue British officer that keeps going around killing people, and he wants to know if it's one of them. And spoiler alert, it turns out it's actually Major Thompson. So and what would happen in the level is you would come out into the base and you'd fight your way through, but you'd get caught and you'd get interrogated by the Shah, and you would be broken out by Major Thompson, and together you two would have to kind of fight through the rest of the base. So here are your comrades. Take a moment to shout out to Aaron AI for his excellent character models. These soldiers still look great even today. Faces look a bit weird, but that's okay. Obviously it's a shame they can't talk, but this was done in an era before lip sync had been added to FPSC. And you can see that not everything ported over correctly, and I hadn't finished kind of building everything I needed to make the bunker a kind of a complete space. This was really just a test, so I've literally cut entire holes in the ceiling and in the walls so that you can see through the vents. Obviously I would have done that a little bit more seamlessly in the final version. So you'd fight through this area, and there's that shower block area again with the hole in the ceiling for us to be able to look down on it from the air vents. And then we'd make our way out into this kind of main atrium space where we'd have a bit of a shootout. So again, start the level with a bit of puzzle solving and end it with a bit of action. So yeah, and then we'd head on out into the rest of the cave complex. And as the game progressed, you would have got cut off from Major Thompson and separated, and the next level would have taken place in a town. Now, I barely did anything to that level at all. Basically, all I had for that level, the only work I did on it was find a good sound effect for the ambience of it. So that's basically it. That's everything I've got to show for my work on Extraction Point, but hopefully this has given you a little bit of an insight into what the finished game would have looked like, and the story. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at sort of behind the scenes at a sort of a half-finished level. And yeah, so thanks for joining me, and until next time, take care. Bye.